It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith. Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So we're finding out an awful lot because of this Dominion lawsuit against Fox. And I've been saying for a while, it would be great to see, well, a line of people doing what Dominion has done. And that whole discovery thing, that's the fun part. Getting those back channel conversations and what we found out during this Dominion suit so far, what's been leaked, what's been put out so far is all of the people who are the talking heads are basically mocking the audience for being stupid. Because they know what it is. It's not about red or blue. It really is, like Rupert Murdoch said, about green. But the thing is, they cause real damage, and real damage to individuals, not just a government that they despise, but to people. And one of those folks is my next guest. Who's been on the show a couple of times before. Her name's Nina Jankowicz. She's the author of How to Lose the Information War and How to Be a Woman Online. You may remember her as the former executive director of the really short-lived Disinformation Governance Board that Fox celebrated taking down. Nina, thanks for taking time for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Rick.
So let's get right to the beginning of this. I understand you are about to or have already filed a lawsuit against this. Why?
So I haven't filed the lawsuit yet. I'm actually seeking to crowdfund part of the legal fees for my suit against Fox, as well as some of the suits that I've had to take on and lawyers I've had to hire as a result of Fox lies. But essentially, Rick, I took a job to serve my country in my area of expertise as the executive director of the Disinformation Governance Board at DHS, which was just an intradepartmental working group to bring to bear best practices in countering disinformation in this sprawling government agency. The right wing and some folks on the very far left wing, I have to say, completely blew it out of proportion. As a result of their lies about what the board was supposed to do, they called it a ministry of truth, called me President Biden's chief censor. Again, the board had no ability or authority to censor, to arbitrate speech whatsoever. My life has been irrevocably changed. I have security concerns. I had to take out a restraining order against one of my stalkers. This was all while I was in the very late stages of my first pregnancy and then the newborn period and infancy period with my son. I get recognized on the street now by people who wish me harm. I get, torrents of abuse. And I'm not just talking about mean tweets. I'm talking about threats. Somebody today, after, some conservative influencers started talking about my crowdfunding campaign, said that everything would be better if I had a bullet in my head. Like, that's the sort of thing that I'm talking about. It's not just mean words online, right? And this is all because Fox lied about me literally hundreds of times. They completely manufactured things that they said that I said. They took my past statements completely out of context. They took manipulated videos that internet trolls had created of me and presented them as if they were facts. And it's not that I'm trying to silence anyone doing amazing journalism. That is not the case. I'm happy for Fox or anybody else to do real reporting on me, the board, whatever. But the fact is, they lied about me hundreds of times. And it took me a little while, given everything that was happening in my life, to kind of comb through these statements and look at what was being said. But when I see it, there's clearly, the threshold being met of actual malice or reckless disregard, which is what you have to meet as a public figure to launch one of these cases. And I just, I worry about what happens with our democracy, right? When people are being threatened in this way as a result of news coverage, and we kind of just shrug and say that that's normal. That's not okay, and it keeps people out of public service, and it changes how our democracy operates. And the law exists exactly for this purpose. So that's why I decided to come to this conclusion and bring a lawsuit.
And the other part of it is it was coordinated. I mean, I think that's an important part of this because it was all of the Fox talking heads calling you the disinformation czar, claiming that you're editing people's speech, called you a conspiracy theorist, a useful idiot, far left lunatic, unhinged, scary. One guy even said that when they closed down the disinformation governance board that they love political scalps.
Yeah.
I mean, so they attacked you. And attacked you often, and then celebrated in public out loud that we got her scalp. See, that's scary stuff. They're supposed to be news. What happened to fair and balanced?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard for me to understand people who look at what happened to me and celebrate it. And that's exactly what Fox did. The video that I have on my crowdfunding page ends with Jesse Waters asking one of his guests, do you feel sorry for what he calls me the disinformation czarist? And his guest kind of smirks and says, I confess I don't. And what really strikes me is that this guy, his guest, has a picture of a young woman. I don't know if it's his wife or his daughter in the background of his shot. He's zooming in from his home, as most people have been doing over the past couple of years. And I wonder how he'd feel if that woman were the target of the sort of threats that I've gotten. I doubt that he'd be very happy about that. And I think he'd be seeking justice for whomever that woman is in his life. And I think we all have to think that way, right? This isn't something normal. This isn't something that anybody should wish on anybody else. I wouldn't wish this on any of the Fox celebrities. You know, one woman had said something like, she's mad about a couple of mean tweets. She can dish it, but she can't take it. First of all, I don't know what she means. Dish it. I'm not dishing anything out. I don't abuse people online. In fact, I'm an advocate for people to treat each other civilly online. And then another one of the hosts said, she couldn't be a Fox News host. And I'm upset that they get that stuff too. Like our country is sick and the way that we're operating is sick, but I think they need to recognize their role in that. And Fox News is absolutely one of the biggest purveyors of vitriol. I can absolutely track every time I'm on Fox News because I get a wave of harassment coming into my inbox. And it's not just, again, mean tweets. It is threats. It is direct messages to my inbox, my Facebook messages. People have called my mother. They've sought information about the rest of my family. The guy I got a restraining order against was curious about whether my son actually existed because I hadn't posted a picture of him online. I wonder why I hadn't posted a picture of him online, right? Yeah. It's because I don't want people to be using him as a target. And that's the reality of life right now. And it's not just me that it's happened to. If you look at election workers across the country since 2020, if you look at, school board members, this is becoming the norm. And I think it is absolutely disgusting.
Can you imagine, and you're talking about your child, can you imagine some of these idiots putting the crosshairs on your child? I mean, this is what these people do. I mean, just a story from Michigan that you had, some lunatic going after Dana Nessel. I mean, you have these stories of the kind of vitriol that you're talking about coming from these right-wing outlets. So when you look at the F channel, you are an expert in cyber warfare. You're an expert in disinformation, someone I look to for guidance on a lot of this stuff. Isn't Fox News, isn't that disinformation at its height? I mean, shouldn't we be doing something about that? Look, I'm not against, I'm in no way, shape, or form against the press, but they're not the press. These seem like hit people.
Well, there was even a lawsuit recently in which somebody was trying to sue Tucker Carlson for defamation, and they lost the suit because the conclusion was that Tucker Carlson was an entertainer, not a journalist. But of course, people treat Tucker and many of the other Fox News hosts as if they are journalists and the words that they speak are the gospel truth, when in reality, what we know from the Dominion suit is that they are not the gospel truth, and that many of the Fox News hosts are lying deliberately to their audience for profit. And the definition of disinformation is false or misleading information spread with malign intent. And I think profit can certainly be a malign intent. And I hope these lawsuits continue to shine a light on what it is that Fox is doing. The problem, of course, is that I think even when confronted with the facts, many people don't want to hear the truth. So the video that I put together, with the help of a friend, I think shows exactly what they did and shows the lies that they've told about me. And what was interesting to me as the campaign started to pick up steam over the past couple of hours, the abuse that I've been getting on Twitter is, I would say, a majority of the abusive messages that I've gotten in the past, 12 hours or so have been based on the lies that Fox told about me. So it's like, even when they're confronted with the truth, these lies that have been seeded by the network are still the thing that kind of the thing that is really the governing rule in their heads. And it's really sad to me. And one of the things, you said, can I imagine them putting the crosshairs on my kid? Yeah, I can. It's really scary to me, especially having been recognized now out in public a couple of times. Luckily, my kid wasn't with me, but I don't want him to have to deal with any of this. And I think it's kind of sick that people's responses, well, you should just go, and there were a couple of people who said this today, you should just fade away from the public, like just go spend time with your son then. I'm sorry, I have a right to use my voice, my First Amendment rights, right? I have a right to speak out and do the work that I've done for almost a decade now. I have a right to contribute to the discourse in my country, and I'm not going to let these people take it away from me just because they've been lied to and because they think they can scare me. It is absolutely scary, but I'm not gonna cede that ground to them. And when people are messaging me, it's often on Facebook in particular, older folks who often have their grandkids or their dogs in their Facebook profile pictures. So sometimes when I'm feeling kind of magnanimous, I'll message them and say, hey, like, cute dog, cute grandkid, I just had my first kid, just wanted to let you know that there is a person behind the profile. I think a lot of people forget that, and certainly Fox has demonized me and so many others to such a degree that people do forget that. I'm a character to them, but I want to remind everybody that I'm a human being.
No, and good on you for taking this on, because I think it's really important. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show here with Nina Jankowicz. She's the author of How to Lose the Information War and How to Be a Woman Online. She's also seeking there's a GoFundMe account out there to raise funds to take on Fox, something that I am going to donate to. I hope others will, because most certainly this is something that we have to. We've got to bring news back to our news. You brought up a moment ago that Tucker said that he's an entertainer, he's not news. Does this not then, isn't this the grounds to say, well, you're not protected by the First Amendment? You're now open to, defamation and other things in ways that the press protected under the First Amendment may not be. I'm curious your thoughts.
Oh, well, so I'm not a legal scholar, and I'm going to leave it to lawyers to kind of argue the case for me, but I wouldn't be suing Tucker directly. It would be a case against Fox, because there was clearly, as you said before, coordination amongst their hosts, their talking heads, their producers, even the guests that they brought in. And those talking points were circulated across the entire network. So I think the fault in that case, as I understand it, was that it was directly against Tucker rather than the network. And the network clearly doesn't always have control over its hosts, as we've seen with the Dominion lawsuit. And when it comes to entertainment, I think a lot of people can say, oh, it's just parody. We see that protected on Twitter. Even Elon Musk's Twitter, we see parody protected to a certain degree. And so people can get away when they say it's just a joke. But the fact stands that in our extremely polarized environment, in which people are radicalized to violence by the media and by the online environment that they exist in, or kind of that merges for them, I think there's a responsibility that entertainers, that media need to take and understand that their words have consequences. And I have to say too, of course you can't sue members of Congress for the things that they say in the course of their duties, but members of Congress played a large role in this as well, in laundering these theories, conspiracy theories and lies about me. And I think we really need to hold our elected officials accountable as well. We need our elected officials to be the beacons of truth and paragons of truth that we hope ourselves to be. I think my dog has just joined our our podcast here.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we've been talking about the word sophistry for the last couple of days. You look at the thing that Marjorie Taylor Greene did with that poor woman who lost her children, saying that Joe Biden did this, when the reality is it happened before Biden was president. You see Jim Jordan putting on this display of, we've got all these FBI agents, these whistleblowers, and you find out they're all paid shills. It's political theater. So the question that I have you, as a cyber expert, as a disinformation expert, how's the average citizen wade through what is clearly BS? And we're just inundated with this horrible, unconscionable nonsense put forth by people who don't care about democracy. They don't care about right or wrong. They care about pure power. And as I think Rupert Murdoch has the phrase of the ages. It's not about red or blue. It's about green.
Yeah.
How
shocking was that?
How do we wade through that?
I mean, so this is where, we have to hope that the rest of the press that is still doing good work continues to survive. So I'm going to give kind of a groan-worthy answer here, but we need to continue to invest in our media, whether that means, making having a subscription to the media outlets that you listen to, that you read or watch, donating to your local PBS or NPR station. All of that's so important, because there is still real journalism in this country. I cut my teeth in the post-Soviet world, especially in Russia, and the reason that what we see in Russia happening right now, where Russians are questioning the reality of the war in Ukraine, despite the pictures that they're being shown. They say, these are made up, or they're fabricated, whatever, they're from other wars. That is because of the grip that Putin has on the media system in Russia, and the fact that dissent is not tolerated. And we still have dissent, we still have criticism, and we need to preserve that. And the media is a really, really big part of that. So that's why I think it's all very ironic, right? That people think I was a giant censor. I'm one of the biggest advocates for free expression and free media that you'll ever find on the face of the planet. And I'll defend the people who are really in harm's way in places like Russia, like Belarus. And yet, I've been made out to be this fascist. It's just hilarious. Anyway, that's what we need to do. People need to support your show. and other shows like it, where we're committed to telling the truth.
But we live in a world where nothing can be true if everything's false, or or however you want to phrase that. And I look at what they want to do down in Florida. They want anyone who is going to write about DeSantis or any of the legislature, any bloggers are going to have to register with the state.
Yeah.
I mean, this sounds Soviet-esque.
Absolutely. Yeah, when I saw that last night, I tweeted right away, because these are the types of legislation that I've written about before, long before I joined DHS, where, people who were seeking to, quote unquote, counter disinformation in less than democratic societies would have this sort of registration for the press. And it's really just a way to keep a leash on journalists, even if you're calling it bloggers. I mean, think about some of the more powerful, Substack newsletters that we see these days that have hundreds of thousands or even millions of subscribers. Those would be considered blogs, and they'd have to register, and they'd have kind of this check on them. And that's not the way that freedom of the press is supposed to work in the United States of America. And I had people in my replies saying, this is just so that we can see where the funding comes from. Frankly, that's not the way that the press works in the United States of America either. Where does the funding come from for a lot of the cable news networks? Yes, we see, commercials, but they've got funding coming from big donors, from, vested interests as well. And they're not required to disclose those to anybody. So I think this law hopefully won't get passed. I hope there will be enough outrage that it won't get passed. And it's a great time for anybody in Florida to write to their representatives and tell them that they oppose it.
Yeah, but if they can spin it in a way that we're going after the woke and going to make the libtards cry, who knows? Last question I've got for you. How can we help? What can folks do? Where do we go? Because I know everybody I know thrilled that you're doing this. How can we help?
Well, thank you. I appreciate the support. So if you can donate, every penny counts. I would love your support in that way, but also sharing the fundraiser really matters as well. Getting it to people out there, like-minded folks who think that this is an important cause. So the link is kind of long, but you can go to my Twitter, which is Wikipedia, Wiczpedia, Wikipedia, or just search Nina Jankowicz on Twitter. You will find it. I bet if you search Nina Jankowicz GoFundMe, you'll see the link as well. But any support you can give in terms of sharing it to your friends, family who would be interested in it, I would really, really support that. Thank you so much.
Nina, I appreciate the time. I hope you'll come back and share some more as this goes on. Most certainly want to help, so I want to make sure that you come back early and often.
All right. Thank you so much, Rick. Have a good night.
Thanks so much, Nina Jankowicz. Again, this is another one of those things. If you can chip in, by all means, got to reclaim our news. Just my thoughts. Want to hear yours? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break. Right back. Stick around.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania, to the auto factories of Michigan, to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, President of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
The old factory towns in America's heartland have been taking a beating. Thing is, though, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Unions are making a comeback. More organizing in the last couple of years than in a long time. And the Biden administration being more supportive of unions than any president since FDR. We're finally turning things around after 40 years of screwing over working people. But will we keep moving in the right direction? That's our choice as Americans.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
Yeah, I can't imagine what she has gone through, because if you watch some of the clips that have come out around, and I remember when they put her forth as the executive director of this disinformation governance board. And the idea was just to point out, what kind of, if you pay attention to social media, you can see it. You can see the wave of trolls and the troll farms doing what they do. Because, sometimes I'll throw something out and you'll see, Jimmy 15 letters and numbers after his name with no followers, commenting the same thing that the same 15 other ones that look just like them do. Because it's what they do. It's these attacks, because it's to get people who are just watching and reading this stuff to think, oh, hey, there's someone who thinks like I do, or moreover, shaping people's thoughts. So am I surprised that this woman's getting threats? Am I surprised, especially this woman? Because I get threats too, but not as many as I would, I believe, if I were a woman. Because it's a lot harder to intimidate me than it is a woman with a child. But over at the F channel, they doesn't seem to care. And to have that smirky little snot, saying, well, we got their scalp. We love scalps. That is not media. And again, it's information. Then stop with the fair and balanced news. If we're to move forward as a country, and look, we're heading towards dangerous times. Understand, the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, they are all running disinformation campaigns. And we're easily divided because we're such a diverse country. We're such a large country. We're such a diverse country with different ethnicities and different belief structures. And look, some that maybe I don't agree with, some that you don't agree with. But we have this wonderful thing called the Constitution that guarantees our rights to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. And I remember in 8th grade learning about this. I remember when Mr. Petrus stood up in front of the room and explained this concept. I still remember it to this day. That each of us have this right to pursue our best life, our path. And as long as our rights don't infringe on someone else's, we can do what we want. The government won't stop us. And yet I come to this moment in time and I see wow. The kind of vitriol and look, I've talked to a number of people, especially during the Trump years, who went through the doxing and went through all of the assaults on social media. And look, I don't spend a lot of time reading the comments on social media. I don't, because if it's someone I know, if someone that follows me, I know who they are, then yeah, I'll interact. But for the trolls, I don't deal with the trolls because they're just trying to get a rise. They're just trying to influence others and try and bait you into an argument so that they can use it to try and convince others that they're right. When the reality is it's not even about right or wrong. It's about dividing us even further. Anyway, we'll see how Nina does. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com.
I took 2 years of electric in high school, and I was the only girl in the class there. Here, I'm the only girl as far as installers go. I'm a single mom, too. I joined the union because it gave me options for healthcare and life insurance so that I know my son's taken care of. I like what I do. This is the best job I've ever had. You think solar panels is more like California. You wouldn't think Appalachia would have any. It would be smart if the government would invest more in clean energy resources.
It doesn't matter what kind of weather. It doesn't matter what time of day or night. When Mother Nature's done her worst, the only thing that matters to us is keeping the lights on for you. The hardworking women and men of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, dedicated to keeping the power on in communities all across the country. Because when bad weather strikes, we know what matters most. IBEW, the power professionals.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At The Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right, left, or red, blue, when they are and always have been up, down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.